Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Choir of the Earth. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. We are delighted to welcome Julia Hammersley, who is a good friend of mine. She is a wonderful harpist here in Bristol. She's played for me in face-to-face performances many times. So when we decided to do the Britten Ceremony of Carols, I could think of one person that I wanted to play for me. And Julia very, very kindly agreed to record all of the Britten Ceremony of Carols on her own, in her house there, without a conductor. She did an amazing job. Julia, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Hello.
So, again, just an amazing achievement to be there, on your own, without somebody waving, without a choir, recording all of those harp parts for the Ceremony of Carols. Huge thanks from us. How did you find the experience?
Well, as you can imagine, it is quite strange to be on your own. It's also, I don't have any soundproofing, so I had a few incidents with the delivery vans and the next door neighbour deciding to dig up his garden. I had to go out and just say, could you just give me 5 minutes while I record this track? So there were a few technical issues around that, and it is strange because it is a piece that I've normally played with a choir.
Yeah.
So I'm often practicing on my own, but to actually imagine a performance without the choir was quite hard. I had to sing along in my head, where I know the tune. So it is very different to recording on your own. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, there's hundreds of people watching this at the moment who are all nodding along in agreement and sympathy with you, because the number of people, I think we're around 10,000 people have recorded for us at some point throughout the life of the choir, haven't they, Mark? And every one of them has had issues where they thought they got a perfect take and then the dog barks or the doorbell goes or an ice cream van goes past and so on. So lots and lots of sympathy, I'm sure, from everyone to you. But no, an amazing achievement, actually. The tracks on their own are superb. I have been looking around. I can't find very many, if any, examples of where someone has actually recorded the performance tracks for the Ceremony of Carols as a standalone. So this may well be a world first. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite unusual because it is such a performance piece, and the choir, because they're very short too. Each movement is very short. I suppose that you do have that where you're perhaps practice with a pianist in your rehearsals, and then the harpist comes in at the last minute, and it suddenly sounds very different. And I think those recording that, bringing it all together. So it is very different, isn't it, to have 100%. A harp to practice to rather than perhaps a piano and doing it with a keyboard.
Absolutely. And you really have hit the nail on the head there. Thinking about it, every time I've taught the Ceremony of Carols, and I've done it with a number of choirs, it's absolutely right. It's with the piano, which obviously is very percussive, hammer based, and really fills the venue in a way that the harp doesn't quite have that same sort of oomph. It's a more delicate and more graceful sound. And then the first thing that happens is you get to the big cathedral and your choir starts singing. They'll go, we can't hear the harp, can you turn it up? Which of course is always an issue. Whereas we have the advantage of having your wonderful playing very much in our ears, and we'll be recording along with the Fieri concert, as you know. And well, then we have the wonderful job of mixing it all, and Connor, our engineer, will balance everything. So I think we're in for a really wonderful experience. It's going to be glorious.
It's going to be so special, Julia. And as Ben was saying, to be able to learn the music with the harp is such a luxury. And can I, as an average to poor choral singer, Julia, because Ben is the music maestro, I see 2 harps behind you. Did you use both harps, or did you use one or then the other to record this music?
So it might be nice in the video because people are going to be watching, and obviously they haven't seen me before, but they haven't seen my harp. So I haven't blurred my background because I thought you might actually want to see that.
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
So this harp right behind me, the light maple one, is the one I recorded the Ceremony Carols That's my concert pedal harp. And
Right.
that's you'd normally play for the ceremony carols. The one further behind was made in 1831. It's an Erard Grecian. So it's an antique harp, but it still plays, it still works. That's the sort of thing you might hear perhaps the Mozart flute and harp on, you know, it's that a much lighter, smaller harp. And right behind, actually still there,
Yeah,
I've got a traditional harp, you know, a lever harp. It's much smaller. So, and you couldn't play the ceremony of carols on that because I have to do the levers by hand, you know. So.
Wow, wow. And is the one nearest you, Julia, the one you played for us on?
Yes, this one.
Is that louder than the others because it's bigger, or just a different sound?
Yeah, so it's louder and it's got a higher tension, but a much stronger sound. It's a German harp. It's called a Horngacker, and it's made of maple, and it was made for me in 2000. So it's a very special harp for me because I commissioned it, you know, I ordered it. So yes, I'm very lucky to have it. So
it's a few years ago when my orchestra did Appalachian Spring, and I believe you came and played for that. I think that was the harp you brought.
Yes, yes, so that's my orchestral harp.
It's a gorgeous instrument, makes a beautiful sound. Now look, there's a lot of people watching who have never, other than pictures, have never encountered a harp before. And you were mentioning levers, and I know that harps also sometimes have pedals. It sounds increasingly like, you know, driving a car or an airplane. So can you just explain a little bit about how those?
Can you see the pedals?
Oh, we can now.
Because I was playing, I was rehearsing last night. So those, can you see the pedals now at the bottom?
Yes, yes.
So when I press the pedals down, there's little discs at the top of the harp here, and they twist and they shorten the string slightly, so they make it slightly sharper. So I can give a demonstration. This pedal here is the C for the C.
Yeah, you can hear that, definitely. Even I can.
Could you hear that over Zoom? Yes. I know Zoom isn't great with music.
No, that was spot on. And so when and obviously those who know about harps will know this, but when it comes to writing music for harp, you do have to have in mind that changing these notes is not something you can do. It's not like on a piano where you have all 12 semitones in the octave going all the way up. You have to think ahead and plan for pedal changes, don't you? It's a different way of thinking about writing music.
And there are some advantages because I can set the key, whereas on the piano you're always having to think about the key. On the harp I play the same strings. So if I'm in D major or C major, I've set the harp into that key. I don't then have to worry about the sort of black notes on the piano. If you're playing a piano, you always have to think, aren't you, about which black notes you might need from the C major. On the harp, you don't need to do that. Once you set it, the problem is when you change key or you have an accidental, and then I have to move a pedal. So, and I've got 7 pedals and I've only got 2 feet. So you can move them in pairs, but I can't move all 7. So to go from, say, C major to C sharp major, it would take me a little bit of time to press all the pedals. So.
And Julia, to young people who, or even not so young people who might like to take up the harp, I mean, if I think of it, I think, well, on a piano, at least I can kind of see where my hands are. You know, I can see where I am placing my hands to play a piece. Whereas on the harp, I think to myself, I can't quite see where my fingers are going. And it must be quite difficult to make sure that you're accurate, because obviously you've got a lot of strings to pluck.
Yeah, so they are coloured. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, no, I can see there's a red one, I think I can see.
Yeah, so there's the red and the black. And at some point, somebody obviously thought a lot of harpists will have played the piano. The piano is the obvious thing to tie into. So the strings look like a piano keyboard. I've got a red string, then I've got 2 clear strings, then I've got a black string, and I've got 3 clear strings. So the red is my C, the black is my F, and I've got the 2 together and the 3 together, like you would imagine the black notes on the piano. So that transfers quite easily from imagining a keyboard to imagining the harp. I think the difficult thing with the harp is your music is over here, you've often got a conductor over there, and the harp is here. So you're trying to look at the music, but the harp is to one side of you. So, so there is that sort of disjoint between all the different places you're looking at.
You've always been, when you've played for me, you've always been absolutely spot on. So you've obviously had a huge amount of experience of playing with orchestras and so on. Just want to ask you about the Britten as a piece. Now, obviously, you've said you've played it for choirs, and I remember I first sang it when I was 11, and I first conducted it when I was 19. And I was working with a harpist who was the same age, and she had already played it by that point when she was 19. And is it a piece that's very much in the standard repertoire for harpists? And just a follow-up question, when did you first play this wonderful ceremony?
I think it is a standard repertoire piece. It's got challenges, so it's not every harpist that will want to play it. And for me, I love it if I get to play it once a year. I'm so pleased if it comes around and someone says, "Oh, will you do so?" Because it for one thing, it's so lovely to have a piece that so concentrates on the harp, but part of an ensemble. So that's a real joy for harpists. And the other one is, if you play something every year, it just stays there in your mind. It stays, nicely under your fingers. You're ready, each year you've had that little sort of revival of it in your mind. I started the harp quite late, so I didn't start playing the harp till I was 16, and I had a bit of an opportunity. So it was chance that I took up the harp. So I was a violinist. I played in the county youth orchestra, and the county youth orchestra at that time had a harp on loan from an elderly lady, which was a very generous gift, and it was quite like the antique one. That's an Erard Grecian. It was actually an Erard Gothic, if anyone knows anything about Erard harps. And they were looking for some students to play the harp in the orchestra. So they had a harp teacher and a harp, and they put out a note saying, would anyone like to learn the harp? And I leapt at it. And because I already played the violin and I was already playing in the orchestra, I immediately, within a few months, was told, here's the harp, get in the orchestra and start playing. So my background is really orchestral playing. That's, that ensemble playing is where I really feel comfortable. So I probably first played the Ceremony of Carols when I was about 23, 24. So that was the first opportunity I had. I lived abroad for a couple of years. So when I came back, I had a lovely teacher that I went to called Imogen Barford. And she went through it with me, and she'd played it when she was 16, which I thought was amazing. So, so people do learn it quite young as a teenager. But it is hard. You've got to be quite a good harpist at 16 to take on the Ceremony of Carols. So.
Well, yes, I mean, it's not as simple as you would think, and there's a lot of repetition. You've got to be absolutely, completely on the ball. And it's one of the things that when I heard your tracks, which were the first thing recorded, obviously, as it always is, the guide tracks, I marveled really at just how very, very precise you were. I'm just thinking about Welcome Yole. Just got to get those chords absolutely where they need to be, and it was spot on. Likewise, this Little Babe, which is just so fast and furious, and you did a magnificent job. But for me, the thing that I always love the most in the ceremony is that interlude, which is The first time I heard it, I was actually singing in the ceremony. I think I was 11 years old. I sang that Younger Child solo. It's one of my first solos in a classical choir. And you know, we were there, we were all fidgeting, and you know, we had to sit down while the harpist played something, and we sat down, and it was a freezing cold December night in this church. Everyone was shivering, and the harpist just started those harmonics, and everyone was just focused on that sound. I mean, that particular piece for me is at the heart of the ceremony. How is that to play, that interlude?
I think what's lovely when you get to the interlude is you can do your own thing. You know, suddenly it's just you, and you don't have to worry about the choir. So there's that lovely feeling of you can take your own space. You've got your own time. So it is always a lovely moment when you get there. I've normally found that you can just hear a pin drop because it is very quiet. And I think because you're halfway through the music, people know something's coming, so they're already, the audience is quiet. And as soon as you start with those very quiet harmonics, everything just, it's sort of cut glass, isn't it? You're sort of really cutting through a silence with that. So it is very magical to play, and the acoustics of, you know, a lovely church. I've played it in, you know, some wonderful places like Bath Abbey and things, where you get, you know, the acoustics really change the sound of the instrument. You know, so you never quite know how it's going to sound when you start off with the harmonics. So yeah, so it's an amazing piece, and then it becomes very loud in the middle. You've got that very dramatic, loud section. You know, so
isn't it? Where you get the bass notes, and you've got 3 staves going on because there's such a lot to think about.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a magnificent piece. I do know that Connor, who is our engineer, who I've mentioned, he has grand plans for the final mix, and that is to place us in a big acoustic. He has in the past used acoustics like the Sydney Opera House and so on, which he can download. And I think I've asked him to aim for a sort of a King's College, Cambridge sound, so that the harp really does, you know, resonate, but with a little bit of that sort of woody warmth of the pews and the sound. So it's not all bare; it has that warmth as well. Oh, it's going to be magnificent. So I just think it's so good of you to do this for us, Julia. We are so grateful to you.
Yes, we really are. Thank you.
We are so looking forward to recording it and sharing it then with you and the world on the 21st of December. I know that there will be hundreds of people at the live concert, and we'd love you to join us.
Yes,
and
do come along if you can.
As we were saying just before we hit record, if you pop up in the comments and say hello, you will be mobbed by adoring fans in Choir of the Earth. And I just have one more quick question for you, which is I think on behalf of lots and lots of the choristers watching, you know, if one wanted to start learning the harp, and it's a matter of, and actually the fact you said you started relatively late, there were people watching who are, you know, retired and so on. Would you say it's, you know, is it never too late to start learning? If they did want to learn, how would the best way to be to, you know, get started on that, do you think?
It's never too late to start learning. I do teach a lot of adults, and for example, in Bristol, we have a class act society. The little harps are called class acts in Scotland. And so we get together, and they tend to be more mature people, and that's lovely. We all play together. What people normally do is buy one of the smaller lever harps. I don't know, I have got a very tiny one in the purple bag at the back there, which is even smaller than that one. So you can buy, all harps are relatively quite expensive, but you can buy quite a small harp that is not going to break the back. You do need the instrument. So you need the instrument. I also work in the Children's Hospital in Bristol, and I do therapy sessions. So you can use music for your own pleasure. You don't particularly have to learn lots of technique. You could just sit and just strum on the harp. You can't go wrong with a harp. You can just sit there and pluck anything. It will sound lovely. So I find a lot of people do that. They just like to have them there to just sit in the evening and just enjoy playing around with some tunes. You know, it's very straightforward to do that. It's very hard to play a harp. There is a lot of technique. You want to get to, you know, if you want to do different things, but initially you can just sit down and you can pluck out a tune. You can do a glissando very easily. So
brilliant.
Well,
thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for your time today, and I know the choir will want us to thank you for this chat, and again for those immensely beautiful tracks that you recorded for us. We will keep you posted as to how we're getting on, and we'll look forward to sharing the tracks with you on the 21st of December. But in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much to Choir of the Earth for coming along, and we really hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks so much, everyone.
Lovely to see you, Julia. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, and look forward to the 21st. Thank you.